Hello and welcome to this review of my Comfort Systems Ergonomic Keyboard. At least I think it's a keyboard, it's hard to tell in this case. This thing was a donation, thanks again, May. Now, This thing was a donation. Thanks again, May. Now, I'm famously awkward with ergonomic keyboards, especially the really weird stuff, so this contraption should score pretty high on the shitometer. Coming from the point of view from someone who's ergonomically worse than a brick, please don't take any of this too seriously. I'm sure it's of benefit to some people. That said, the keyboard comes with a bunch of terminal ports on it, but it didn't come with a cable, and none of the terminal cables or converters I owned worked with it. Also, unfortunately, the company behind it, who is still operational it appears, didn't reply to any of my emails about getting it working, so alas, it remains non-functional. Oh dear, looks like I can't test it for a week then. What a shame. Now, the big thing, of course, is that it's multi-adjustable, consisting of 3 segments which are stuck to a sliding part that moves along the base of the keyboard, like this. The segments can be moved around and then rotated and then fixed in place using the big discs at the bottom, which look like cogwheels, like so. So you can stick it... So you can stick it into whatever perverted position you prefer for your depraved ergonomic benefits, such as this one. Or if you want to use this keyboard like a normal person, for some reason, without being ergonomically inclined, you can just make a normal 101 key full size out of it. Interestingly, apart from being multi-adjustable, it also allows you to completely take out the segments and stick them back in a different order, so you can have the numpad in the middle if you want, or on the left side if you're a lefty. Of course, for me, almost any deviation from the normal arrangement will probably work out pretty badly, but if you're into this sort of keyboard origami, I can imagine that this must be one of the most extensively customizable boards out there, apart from maybe something like an Ergodox on which the segments aren't even connected at all, and in which the positions of the keys themselves is fucked up as well. Speaking of which, the different parts of the keyboard are interconnected with little ribbon cables using the same ports to make sure they pass the scan codes along to whatever segment is supposed to report to the computer. Like I said, I couldn't get hold of a keyboard to computer cable for this, so I'm not sure exactly how this would have worked, although I suspect you could hook it up through any of the modules. Now, together with the beige color scheme, the coiled ribbon cables make this thing look very vintage, even though it appears that these are still being made. That's it, modern ones are USB based, and you can apparently also get them in black, which looks even more evil than this beige abomination. Due to the splitness, of course, it has a split spacebar as well. Now, one of the features it has is that you can program one of the spacebars to be a backspace, which is known as erase ease among keyboard enthusiasts. It's considered by some to be a highly desirable feature, which is why, for example, the IBM and NMB models that feature it are quite sought after. In fact, not just the spacebar, but the entire keyboard is fully programmable, including macros, and the data is stored keyboard side. Furthermore, you can hook up 1 or more foot pedals and program them to output different keystrokes as well. I have to say it's impressive. Now, the boards themselves, when put together like this, only measure 46.5 by 16 centimeters, or X by Y thumb parts in stupid units, which isn't especially big for a keyboard from the beige era, but the base is a lot bigger obviously, because it has to accommodate for whatever split people want from this thing, so it's actually 56 centimeters wide in total, which is the same as an IBM battleship, which in turn is titanic. And completely sprawled out like this, it's even wider, 61 centimeters. Jeez. Similarly, considering the very flimsy construction of the keyboard segments themselves, you'd be forgiven for thinking it's quite light. This segment, for example, even if it's missing the plastic rear shell, weighs only 237 grams. But you'd be seriously mistaken, the whole thing weighs over 2.7 kilograms. Or 0.425177 minerals in imperial. That's almost half a kilo more than even a terminal Model M, or the same weight as 2 Dell Bigfoot keyboards. So even though this might look like a small light piece of kit, it's actually a colossal lead brick. Yeah, that's how we like it. I'm guessing the weight of the base, which appears to be solid steel, is necessary to ensure that the keyboard doesn't topple over or something, which makes sense considering how top-heavy it would otherwise have been. Especially compared to how flimsy the keyboard fragments are, the base and the mounting points appear to be rock solid and very well made. Definite points for build quality there. Now, as for the switches, perhaps somewhat surprisingly for such an exotic keyboard, they're actually Maxi Switch dome with slider, which suggests to me that it was Maxi Switch who made this hunk of stuff, or at least the keyboard segments. I've reviewed Maxi Switch dome with slider before. It's one of the stiffest rubber dome switches I know, but not necessarily the worst. It's kind of tactile, but it's still really, really mushy, and it gets tiring to type on pretty quickly for me. The construction is a bit different from most rubber dome switches in that Maxi Switch dome with slider uses a PCB rather than just a membrane. Now, this should theoretically result in a firmer feel than most rubber domes, but it's still really spongy to me. Perhaps it's because of the rather giant rubber domes that they employ. Overall, this is really not among my favorite dome with slider designs. Interestingly, the website actually shows an MTBF for these switches, which I don't think we've had yet. According to them, it's 60 million cycles, which is higher than even that of Cherry MX. Now, a word of caution, it is of course possible that the conductive elastomer that they're citing refers to a different rubber dome switch that they switched to after they made this Maxi Switch one, but still, it's an interesting notion, 60 million cycles for a rubber dome switch. Also of note is that the switches are MX compatible, which means that at least you get nice MX type double shots out of it. They're really thin, but still quite nice, and I like the font as well, which is rather reminiscent of Keytronic's old font. Or you can stick some crazy customs on this board to baffle everyone even more. Interestingly, it's got what appears to be Windows keys on them, marked with these cogwheels, which might have been the older logo or something. However, the electronics are all marked 1993, by which times Windows keys weren't really a thing yet, so I'm not sure how old this thing actually is, but unless these weren't intended as Windows keys, I'm gonna guess it's at least as young as 1995. Overall, although this thing embodies almost everything I don't want or need in a keyboard, I can only conclude that for those people who do need adjustability and are looking for ergonomic benefits, this appears to be one of the more customizable models on the market, shy of an Ergodox or something similar board. I'd go as far as to say that at least of the keyboards that have their keys in a default 101 key type staggered layout, this is the most extensively adjustable one I've seen so far, although I'm obviously not an expert on this particular niche. Now, before I'm going to do the typing demonstration, which will inevitably look super horrible because I don't touch type in the proper copyright register trademark manner, so it'll doubtlessly look spectacularly stupid. But anyway, what you normally don't see is that I'm seated at an insufferably awkward angle, because in order to get the shot, I need to position the camera where I would like to sit, and so instead I sit at the side. In fact, I would sit really here, which put me at this really bad 45-degree angle. Also, I'm sat way too far away from the board, so I always have to do the typing demo with really far stretched arms as well, which is both tiring and even more awkward than you can possibly imagine. However, with this board's unique properties, I'm going to adjust it so that the board fades towards me, which will hopefully make the typing demo easier. Whether this remedies it or not, I can't say yet, but anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard. Getting pretty dizzy here, by the way, guys. So you can stick it into whatever perverted position you prefer for your depraved ergonomic benefits, such as this one. It's so fucked up.